Ever since its debut in the rally world in the mid-90s, the Subaru Impreza WRX became an icon in the tuning world. A car that seemed to be sought after by so many car enthusiasts. But with that legacy, can the WRX, with such a racing history, continue to live up to its predecessors? So is the WRX a good enthusiast car? Absolutely yes. Does it live up to its previous generations? Yes, it does. Great! Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. With all seriousness, the 4th generation WRX is a great platform, with tons of potential and wide aftermarket available. Since its release in 2015, the new WRX not only got a new platform, but a new engine, the FA20. And that engine from the factory produces 268 horsepower and a healthy 258 foot-pounds of torque. Thanks to the twin-scroll turbocharger, that torque is produced way lower in the RPM range than older generations. Even though the stock figures might entertain a few, this car is far from it, currently running a Cobb Stage 2 Plus tune, among other bolt-ons, which means it now blows a stock WRX out of the water. The power that comes out of the car is just addicting, especially with all the noises coming out of it. You can hear the turbo spool coming from the Cobb intake, combined with the Grimspeed catted J-pipe and an aftermarket catback. I think this car sounds great. Even though it might be the most controversial thing about this Subaru, because it doesn't sound like a Subaru. But I'll let you be the judge if you like the sound of this. Speaking of the engine, the power band is very linear and pulls all the way to redline, which is very nice since often with turbo cars, the power peaks and then drops. Which I think is kind of funny because I remember driving this car stock, and one of the things that annoyed me was the power just dropped after 4,000 RPM and that it revved hang every time you went to shift. It's nice to see all that fixed with a tune. The throttle response is pretty good. The turbo spools right away with the twin scroll. At lower gears, it just gets up and gets out of its way. But in the higher gears, at lower RPM, it does feel a bit bogged down. You can definitely feel that it's a 2-liter engine and you need to drop down a few gears to bring it past the 3,000 or 3,500 RPM to really get it going. It's really impressive to see how far modern technology has come in cars. A simple tune changes the characteristics of a car, brings in almost an extra 100 horsepower over stock, fixes the rev hang, and makes the car pull all the way to redline. But with all that power, can the car stop as well as it can launch? The brakes work great. They were just recently replaced all around. Now, I'm not sure how they'd hold up on the track after constant abuse, as they're not the STI Brembos, but for a spirited driving like this, they work great. From the factory, this car might blend in with most cars and might not stand out too much, but it's really been transformed into something you can't miss. I think styling is very objective. Usually, I'm personally pretty conservative with the type of styling that I like, but to be honest, I think Kyle and his wife did a great job at accenting this WRX, contrasting certain areas and making the car really their own with additions like the STI wing, golden stripes matching the rally-inspired sparkle wheels, among other things. With its symmetrical full-time all-wheel drive, how does this car actually handle? This car is currently sitting on Tane lowering springs, combined with a fresh set of Firestone Indy 500 wrapped around the sparkle wheels. With that, it does handle very nicely. It's surprisingly a very nimble car, and it feels very planted. It's a very easy car to drive. I don't think it's a car where you can easily lose control. It's very predictable. Even when pushed towards its limit with the Firestone Indy 500, you know when the car starts to let go and starts to understeer, but it's in a very mild manner. Now that feedback, I wouldn't say it's actually coming from the steering wheel. Like most modern car, it's electric and fairly numb. Mind you, not as bad as some other cars. but it does have a nice weight to it, without being too heavy, while being very precise. It does still have a bit of body roll, since it's still on factory struts with tane lowering springs. For springs, they're not too stiff, the ride quality is still pretty good. Combined with the Sport Tech interior, it's actually a car I wouldn't mind taking on road trip. It has leather interior, heated seats, and all modern amenities. I do love the pair and shift knob. I think it looks fantastic and feels great to shift gears. And the gear shifts are quite nice. You know when you're in gear, and the thrower not too long, but it's just too long to being the perfect length. It is, on the other hand, a very easy car to heel toe into lower gears, with the pedals being so close together. Plus you get rewarded with this. The clutch is still the factory one, so it's still very light, but still a decent amount of response. It doesn't just grab out of nowhere, it's very gradual. Unfortunately, what's connected to the clutch and the shifter is where the WRX comes short for me personally. I'm not sure if Subaru made the gear ratio purposely just to do 100 kilometers an hour in second gear, but the gearing is extremely tall. While upshifting and downshifting, I almost feel at times as if I'm skipped a gear. I understand probably for fuel economy and highway cruising the tall gearing, but to what extent? For example, 4, 5, and 6 are all under the 1 ratio, so they're all in a sense overdrive gears. Technically, 6 gear with this ratio, the car could hit over 300 kilometers an hour. If we compare that to the STI gearbox, for example, only 5th and 6th are under the 1 ratio. Maybe Subaru did this because they didn't want the WRX to be faster than the STI, because I sincerely think that with some shorter gears, it would make a car a lot more engaging to drive. If you've watched Kyle's video with his car, I think he summed up the WRX perfectly.
It doesn't matter what you do with the car. It could be commuting, you're throwing pops and bangs out the exhaust just in traffic to have fun with it, or you're blasting down the highway or going out the countryside with your friends, ripping down the roads too. It handles like everything well, but nothing great. It's like the perfect jack of all trades.
It does everything well. It's got good acceleration, good handling, good styling, even the interior is comfortable. But a jack of all trades is a master of none. The WRX doesn't exceed in anything either. It's a very safe and predictable car to drive. But I must say, I truly admire Kyle for taking a car like this and making it his own.